Have you ever pulled out leftovers from your fridge, tossed them in the microwave, and thought, look at me, saving time and staying healthy? That's the routine for most of us. A warm bowl of last night's spinach soup, a comforting side of reheated mashed potatoes, maybe some scrambled eggs from Sunday brunch. It feels efficient, smart, even responsible. But what if I told you that this seemingly harmless habit could quietly be hurting your body? That some of these foods, once reheated, undergo silent chemical changes that might be linked to cancer, brain fog, digestive issues, and chronic inflammation? You're not imagining the sluggishness. You're not overreacting when your stomach feels off after a safe meal. There's more happening inside than you realize. Welcome to Calm Voice Wellness. I'm glad you're here, because today we're peeling back the science behind 5 everyday foods that doctors and nutritionists quietly urge us not to reheat. We're not going to scare you, we're going to empower you. With medical evidence, real-life examples, and easy kitchen strategies, we'll help you protect your health without giving up the foods you love. If you stay with me through this journey, not only will you understand how to sidestep these risks, but you'll start noticing subtle, powerful shifts in your digestion, energy, and mental clarity. And if you find value in this kind of content, I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the channel and joined our growing wellness community. Now, let's talk about what's really going on inside your plate. Spinach is a leafy green we all know and love. Whether it's tossed into a smoothie, sautéed with garlic, or nestled inside a warm lasagna, spinach is celebrated as a nutrient powerhouse. It's rich in iron, folate, vitamins A, C, and K, everything your body craves. But here's the hidden truth. When spinach is cooked, cooled, stored, and then reheated, especially in a microwave, it can create compounds that are silently toxic. This happens because spinach is naturally high in nitrates, which are perfectly safe in their raw form. In fact, they're beneficial, helping with blood flow and lowering blood pressure. But once spinach is cooked and left in the fridge, those nitrates can convert to nitrites. And when you reheat that spinach, particularly at high temperatures, nitrites can transform into nitrosamines, compounds that have been extensively linked to gastrointestinal cancers and neurodegenerative diseases. They're invisible, odorless, and they can accumulate in your body over time. Imagine this. You prep a giant pot of vegetable soup with spinach on Sunday, confident that it's a healthy, budget-friendly choice for the week. On Tuesday, you reheat a bowl for lunch. It smells fine, tastes good, but the chemical change has already happened. If that pattern repeats weekly for years, you're introducing microscopic risks into your body again and again. For someone in their 20s or 30s, the body's natural detox systems may handle that burden for a while. But in your 50s, 60s, and beyond, when cellular repair slows and your detox capacity declines, those nitrosamines can quietly contribute to inflammation, cognitive decline, or even early onset dementia. That doesn't mean spinach should be feared. Quite the opposite. Spinach is still one of the healthiest foods on earth when consumed fresh or cooked and eaten soon after. If you batch cook with spinach, consider enjoying leftovers cold. Spinach salad, cold soup. Or if you must reheat, do it gently, using low heat on the stovetop rather than microwaving. Avoid multiple reheatings. Store spinach dishes in airtight containers and consume within 1 or 2 days. Small tweaks like this can radically lower your exposure to harmful compounds while still allowing you to enjoy the flavor and nutrients of this leafy hero. Knowledge is power, and in this case, it may also be prevention. Potatoes, warm, soft, satisfying. They're a comfort food in every culture. From mashed potatoes to crispy roasted wedges to that creamy potato salad Grandma used to make, they're cheap, versatile, and hearty. But reheated potatoes, especially when stored improperly, can turn from comforting to concerning. When freshly cooked, potatoes have a soft, digestible starch that our bodies handle with ease. But once cooled, those starches undergo a process called retrogradation. They transform into resistant starch. Now here's the twist. Resistant starch can be good for your gut microbiome, acting as a prebiotic. But the danger begins when potatoes are cooked, left to cool slowly, then stored in foil or unrefrigerated, and finally reheated in the microwave. These conditions create the perfect storm for Clostridium botulinum, a bacteria that thrives in low-oxygen, starchy environments. It can produce a toxin that's colorless, odorless, tasteless, and incredibly dangerous. We're talking about botulism, a rare but serious illness that can cause nausea, neurological symptoms, and in severe cases, even paralysis. This risk increases in older adults, whose immune systems naturally weaken with age. Add to that the growing research on the gut-brain axis, which links inflammation in your digestive tract to mental health conditions like anxiety, brain fog, and Parkinson's disease. And suddenly, that reheated baked potato looks a lot less innocent. Imagine you wrapped leftover potatoes in foil Sunday night, stuck them in the fridge, then reheated them in the microwave Wednesday evening. They smell fine, look fine, but inside, microscopic neurotoxins could be present, quietly straining your gut and your brain. The solution? First, avoid wrapping cooked potatoes in foil unless you're planning to eat them immediately. If storing, let them cool quickly and keep them in an airtight container, not foil. When reheating, use the oven or stovetop to ensure even heat. Avoid microwaving cold potatoes wrapped in foil, and try not to reheat more than once. Potatoes can still be delicious and safe, but only when we handle them with respect. Especially for those over 50, with goals to protect memory, reduce inflammation, and stay energetic, this small food habit change could make a major difference in long-term health. Eggs are a breakfast staple. They're packed with protein, easy to prepare, and deeply nourishing. Whether you like them hard-boiled, scrambled, poached, or sunny-side up, eggs are a beloved part of the Western diet. But reheating them, especially in the microwave or at high heat, can quietly sabotage their health benefits. The reason lies in how egg proteins and cholesterol respond to heat. When eggs are first cooked, their proteins denature, which is a fancy way of saying they unfold and reconfigure, so your body can digest them. That's good. But reheating those same cooked eggs a second time, that causes further degradation, especially in the cholesterol-rich yolk. Oxidized cholesterol, known as oxysterols, forms during high-heat reheating. These compounds are linked to arterial inflammation, atherosclerosis, and cognitive decline. Studies have shown that oxysterols may trigger immune responses that promote chronic inflammation, a key driver of heart disease, memory issues, and degenerative brain conditions. For older adults, whose ability to metabolize fats and repair inflamed tissues is already declining, this risk is amplified. Picture this: you boil a dozen eggs on Sunday, toss them in the fridge, and reheat one each morning for breakfast. It feels like a healthy habit, but with each reheating, you may be introducing subtle inflammatory stress to your body. Not enough to notice overnight, but over years it adds up. Instead, try enjoying boiled eggs cold, sliced into salads, mashed into avocado toast, or eaten as a grab-and-go snack. If you must reheat them, do so gently. Low heat on the stovetop, one time only, and always refrigerate cooked eggs promptly. Don't leave them sitting out on the counter. When eggs smell off, feel slimy, or look discolored, trust your instincts. Toss them. Your body will thank you. These delicate green leaves, so often seen as a garnish, are actually powerhouses of detoxification. Cilantro contains compounds that bind to heavy metals, pulling them out of tissues where the bacterial have silently accumulated over the years. In a world filled with environmental toxins, from mercury in fish to lead in old pipes, cilantro quietly does the work of removing the burdens your body didn't ask for. And it does this without fanfare, like a janitor working late after the world has gone to bed. Pairing cilantro with garlic or chlorella can enhance this detox effect, creating a symphony of cellular cleansing that your liver will quietly thank you for. Then there's turmeric, a root that glows with a golden hue, prized not just for its color or earthy flavor, but for its ability to combat inflammation at the root level. Curcumin, its most active compound, doesn't merely suppress pain the way over-the-counter pills do. It speaks to the pathways that cause pain, asking them to step aside. Chronic inflammation is the shadow behind most diseases of aging, from heart conditions to joint pain, even to depression. A pinch of turmeric in your meals, or a warm golden milk at night, isn't just a culinary choice. It's an act of daily prevention. Just be sure to add a crack of black pepper. It boosts curcumin's absorption like a friend helping another climb a steep hill. Even foods as humble as fermented cabbage, yes, sauerkraut, hold a legacy of healing. Fermentation isn't just preservation, it's transformation. Through the action of beneficial bacteria, ordinary vegetables become superfoods teeming with probiotics that restore balance to your gut microbiome. And your gut, contrary to what some believe, isn't just about digestion. It's a second brain, a seat of your immunity, and a regulator of your mood. When you care for your gut flora with fermented foods, you're laying a foundation for better sleep, more energy, fewer colds, and a clearer mind. Let's not overlook the silent protectors like broccoli sprouts. While mature broccoli is certainly healthy, its young sprouts, just a few days old, contain up to 100 times more sulforaphane. This compound is like a tiny army that turns on your body's detoxification genes, helping flush out carcinogens before they can harm your DNA. Research shows that just a handful of these tiny greens can significantly reduce the risk of certain cancers. They're mild in taste, easy to grow on a kitchen counter, and may be the cheapest insurance policy for your health that you've never considered. Now, what happens when these foods are mistreated? When your kindness to your body, your intention to reheat something healthy from last night, turns sour? Some foods, when reheated, don't just lose nutrients, they gain risks. Spinach, for example, when reheated, can form nitrosamines, compounds linked to cancer. The nitrates in spinach, harmless when fresh, morph under heat and time. Similarly, reheated potatoes can foster the growth of Clostridium botulinum, especially if they've sat at room temperature too long. This is not to instill fear, but awareness, because knowledge is prevention in its most powerful form. Rice, a global staple, deserves special mention. Cooked rice that's been left at room temperature too long becomes a petri dish for Bacillus cereus, a bacteria that can cause food poisoning even after reheating. The risk isn't in the rice, it's in how we treat it. Store it promptly, reheat thoroughly, and most importantly, don't reheat more than once. Every cycle of warmth can invite microscopic danger, even if your nose or eyes don't notice a thing. And what about oils? Reheating foods cooked in vegetable oils, like soybean or sunflower, can create harmful aldehydes, compounds linked to neurodegenerative diseases. The oils break down under repeated heat, transforming from sources of fatty acids into agents of inflammation and oxidative stress. Using stable fats for cooking, like avocado oil or ghee, and avoiding multiple reheats can sidestep this invisible hazard. The real takeaway here isn't to fear your food, but to respect it. To understand that the fridge and the microwave aren't magic boxes. They're tools, and like any tool, they require knowledge to be used safely. Just as you wouldn't hammer a screw, you shouldn't microwave a plate of day-old spinach and call it nourishment. So, what can you do to stay safe, to ensure that the food you eat nourishes rather than harms? Cool your cooked foods quickly within 2 hours and store them in shallow containers to chill evenly. Reheat only the portion you'll eat and never let leftovers sit out again after reheating. Trust your senses. Smell, sight, and texture often give the first signs when something is off. But also trust the science, the invisible chemistry happening inside your meals. Your health isn't built in grand gestures. It's woven into these daily, quiet decisions. The way you store your rice, the oil you choose to sauté your greens, the discipline of composting rather than reheating wilted vegetables. These aren't acts of inconvenience. They're acts of love, of reverence. And in a world chasing instant fixes, They remind us that true wellness lives in the slow, steady rhythms of conscious living. And if this message speaks to your heart, if you've felt a shift, even a small one, in how you see your food, then join us on this journey. Subscribe to Calm Voice Wellness and be part of a community that values clarity, science, and soulful living. Let this be the day you stop rushing and start nourishing. They won't suspect that their midnight snack of fried rice could be causing more harm than good. You see, rice contains spores of Bacillus cereus, a bacterium that can survive cooking. If you leave that rice sitting out too long before putting it in the fridge, or worse, if you leave it at room temperature overnight, those spores can grow into bacteria that produce toxins. These toxins don't go away when you reheat the rice. In fact, they may already have done their damage by the time the microwave pings. People often associate food poisoning with meat or seafood, but reheated rice is a silent offender that leads to countless cases of nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea each year. It's not the warmth that saves you, it's how you store it before reheating. Make it a rule. Refrigerate leftover rice within an hour of cooking and reheat only once. Don't take chances, your gut will thank you. And then there's spinach. Yes, that darling of green smoothies and superfood salads. When raw, it's loaded with folate, iron, and antioxidants. But once cooked and reheated, especially in the microwave, spinach's nitrates can transform into nitrosamines, compounds that researchers have linked to cancer in animals. That bright green leaf might look harmless, but under the wrong conditions, it could become a toxic cocktail. Especially for infants or people with compromised immune systems, the risk is even greater. You may be wondering, so what can I reheat safely? On mis 18 days. The good news is, most vegetables are still safe to reheat if they have been cooled quickly and stored properly. But leafy greens like spinach, celery, and beets deserve extra caution due to their nitrate content. If you've made a spinach dish, either eat it right away or discard the leftovers. Don't treat your body like a lab for chemical experiments. Then there's the humble potato, a staple in so many diets. Baked, mashed, roasted, it's a comfort food classic. But when cooked potatoes are left at room temperature for too long, they can also harbor Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria behind botulism, one of the most dangerous forms of food poisoning. What makes it especially insidious is that it doesn't always have a bad smell or taste. The bacteria thrive in oxygen-free environments, like foil-wrapped baked potatoes left sitting on a countertop. Botulism can cause muscle weakness, vision problems, even paralysis. So the next time you're tempted to save that foil-wrapped potato for the next day, unwrap it and refrigerate it properly. Better yet, toss it if you're not sure. Food isn't just about taste. It's about trust. Can you trust that spud after it's sat around all night? Another food to be wary of is eggs. Whether scrambled, boiled, or baked into a quiche, eggs are highly perishable. Reheating eggs, especially in dishes like frittatas or breakfast burritos, can introduce a rubbery texture and destroy their nutritional value. But more importantly, if eggs weren't stored correctly after cooking, reheating won't protect you from the growth of salmonella. This is particularly risky for young children, elderly individuals, and anyone with a weakened immune system. Now, some of you might say, "But I've done this for years and never gotten sick." That may be true, until it isn't. Foodborne illness isn't always immediate, and the risks accumulate over time. Sometimes the body can fight off mild toxins without showing symptoms. But other times, the damage builds slowly, affecting your organs, your brain, or your immune system. Consider this. Reheated chicken, especially from a restaurant or buffet, is another common offender. Chicken has a denser protein structure, which means when it's reheated unevenly, like in a microwave, some parts may reach dangerously high temperatures, while others stay tepid. This inconsistency doesn't just ruin the taste. It can also allow bacteria like Listeria or Salmonella to survive, putting you at serious risk. Even healthy-sounding foods like mushrooms can become problematic. Cooked mushrooms that are stored improperly and reheated later can develop toxins and compounds that affect your digestion or your nervous system. You may feel fine in the moment, but repeated exposure to these small doses over time could potentially contribute to cognitive issues or memory decline in the long run. So, what's the real takeaway here? It's not about living in fear. It's about living with awareness. Food can heal, but it can also harm, especially when convenience overrides care. That leftover you're about to microwave? Ask yourself, was it stored correctly? Has it already been reheated once? Is it on the list of high-risk foods? Because every time you open that fridge, you're not just grabbing leftovers, you're making a choice. A choice to honor your health or to gamble with it, and your body, with all its wisdom and resilience, deserves better than a gamble. Before we close, I want to leave you with this. Healing doesn't start with medicine. It starts with habits, with being present at the dinner table, with respecting the food that nourishes you and the body that carries you through every moment of your life. If today's message resonated with you, consider joining our growing community by subscribing to Calm Voice Wellness. Here, we explore not just the facts, but the feelings, the mindfulness, the wisdom behind everyday health choices. You are not alone on this journey. Take a deep breath, be kind to your body, and remember, your wellness begins with awareness.